And welcome everyone to today's webinar from Leading by Legacy. It's accreditation for smaller law enforcement agencies. My name is Ben Eklund. I'm the training coordinator for Leading by Legacy, and I'll be the organizer. The webinar panelists today are Chief David Kurz from the Durham, New Hampshire Police Department. Chief Kurz is also a CALEA assessor and team leader in New Hampshire. We also have Chief Lou Dekmar from the LaGrange, Georgia Police Department. So Chief Kurz, at this time, I'm going to pass things over to you.
Thanks, Ben. Just want to touch base with this, a little background on how CALEA was formed in 1979 when IACP, in the Police Executive Research Forum, the National Association of Black Law Enforcement Executives, and the National Sheriff's Association came together to establish a set of standards that a modern, effective, and ethical police department should incorporate and adhere to as their guiding policies and procedures. Essentially, the industry standards really are applicable to any size agency. They are, in my opinion, the Betty Crocker cookbook of how you run a police organization. Standards that apply to essential law enforcement functions like safety, life, health, issues of legal matters. These are deemed to be mandatory. They have to be addressed. They can't be ignored. Such things like use of force, pursuits, discipline for employees, training, performance evaluations, how internal affairs are handled, prisoner transportation, and how evidence is retained. These are things, obviously, that any police agency, whether you're accredited or not, must comply with in some capacity or be subjected to scrutiny if you're not. But the really function is that, especially for our audience with the smaller agencies, if you don't do it, then it's deemed to be not applicable by function. However, there are other areas that, while they are desirable function, such as, let's say, mutual aid agreements that you may have, or computer security, the development of a strategic plan, or establishment maybe of a training committee, crime prevention functions, or even like a public information officer. These are things that, while desirable to have, if you don't have them, then you don't certainly have to apply to them. CALEA does not require them. And compliance, which is to the industry standards, you only have to deal with those issues that, in fact, you do it. For instance, if you, in a smaller agency like mine, we don't have a planning function, so I don't need a policy on it. While that may sound simplistic, many people may not understand that. Or if an agency somehow can't comply with some certain thing because of labor agreements or some kind of court order, you can always seek a waiver to do so. Now, one of the reasons we want to do this, or that certainly I wanted to do it, was to manage risk. In this environment of litigation, local governments are sued and held liable for the actions of our employees. You know, as managers, we are constantly exposed to such things as use of force or pursuits, wrongful employee discharge. These are all high percentage lawsuits. You know, God forbid that any of our officers are put in a position where they must use deadly force, but the bottom line is, I think we all understand that we will be sued in some capacity. And we all know this. This is not a guess on our part. This is a fact. And if we're operating with out-of-date policies or non-existent policies, it's essentially like playing Russian roulette. Additionally, the best defense against a lawsuit as your agency is that either can demonstrate that you're acting properly in accordance with established written policies that meet the CALEA standards. And as I said, these are the industry standards. And the agency has been reviewed by an independent outside team of CALEA assessors. All of these things are not only important, but in many cases, check with your insurance carrier about discounts, for instance. In New Hampshire, I know that there are funds to assist you through the municipal association. So check with those places that see if they can assist you financially to get you there, because obviously, as your insurance carrier, it's in their best interest to do that. Additionally, accreditation makes you think about how you're going to formalize your practices, such as in straightening certain things like crime prevention. It requires an establishment of management procedures. The whole idea of legacy that we've been discussing is built on these very factors that we're talking about, and certainly is integrated into this whole process of essentially creating a level playing field for fair and non-discriminatory personnel practices. It delivers or ensures consistency with service delivery to your community. It boosts citizen and staff and governing body confidence in your agency. In addition, a lot of town administrators will certainly love the fact that not only are you saying that you're doing what you're doing, but you can certainly demonstrate that you are. And what you get from it, the process is a proven management model. You don't have to guess. If you're a change agent in your organization and you want to go into it to be that change agent, you don't have to argue with anybody about whether these are the industry standards, because they are. It provides a blueprint that will allow you to use your personnel and stand in front of your governing body, your council, your select persons, whatever, and explain how you're doing this for a reason, not because it's something that you simply want to do. And the bottom line is that if we really think about it, it requires that you do what you say you should do anyway. There isn't anything in that yellow manual, for instance, that shouldn't be done by any police agency, regardless of size. And because we're small, it doesn't give us an out not to do certain things. And ultimately, it makes you accountable, and that limits your liability exposure. I mean, everything we do is somehow associated with managing risk, whether it's an officer getting in a cruiser or it's even at the firearm. And it just establishes your legacy and enters into more of that. Now, one of the things, the process that goes along here very quickly is that you need to buy that yellow book I keep referring to, and you can find that by going to the website that's there at CLEAR, the store, CLEAR Publications. That book will cost you $45. If you're not even interested in doing CLEAR accreditation, and that's certainly fine. This isn't a sales pitch for that. It's simply to say that the industry standards exist. Don't go seeking them. The bottom line is have that yellow book, and it assures you that you have to have a policy if you do certain things. You get to decide as the CEO how you want to go about doing these things. CLEAR does not tell you what to do. They just how to do it. They tell you what you need to address, however. And there's a resource that's in your area. Virtually every part of the country has a police accreditation coalition or a PAC. You will find that at the CLEAR website, and you can look under the police accreditation coalitions, and you will find one that's in your area. And if you don't find one in your area, either give myself or Lou a call or touch base with CLEAR. They'll locate one for you. And the reason this is so important is these people are the ones who have policies already that they will be happy to share with you, so that you can at least adapt a policy, put it in place, and then the key for you then becomes, as a manager that's going to carry on your legacy, is that you need to train your officers and your staff on these matters. It's not good enough just to implement these policies without training. And again, if you're interested in getting involved with the process or the CLEAR accreditation, touch base with them, and they'll tell you how to go ahead and do that process, how you do the review essentially, and how you can schedule an on-site after some time. If you have a chance, attending a commission meeting certainly gives you an opportunity to understand some of the nuances of that process. So at the end here, what we want to look for, what I'd like to do is, these are the questions that have already been submitted by the audience. And Lou, if you would please address some of these questions, that would be great.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. One of the questions that frequently is asked, what are the costs of accreditation? It's a tiered cost based on the size of the agencies. For example, 1 to 24 full-time members is $3,320 a year. Agencies 25 to 199 would be $3,915 a year, and then it goes up incrementally for larger agencies. I think probably the more important question that I would ask in response to that inquiry is, what's the cost of a deposition? What's the cost of summary judgment? Generally, a day of depositions is going to run an agency somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. So the cost of 1 day of depositions is frankly the cost of CLEAR annually. Summary judgment, if an agency prevails at summary judgment, the cost is going to be somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000. by the time you talk about discovery, depositions, interrogatories, motions, that sort of thing. So cost really is in my opinion, fairly minor when you consider the process. And what the process does is it ensures policy, training on those policies, appropriate supervision, corrective or disciplinary action, so the agency can show that if an officer or an employee behaves inappropriately, that's not reflective of the agency standard. A review of those trends, such as use of force that Dave spoke of, and then assist them to ensure that those policies are updated and maintained. What are the maintenance costs separate and apart from accreditation? Frankly, there are no other maintenance costs for CALIA. The internal maintenance costs are largely controlled by how the standards are met. For example, some agencies will hire someone from outside of the agency or contract things outside of the agency to be done, and that cost is much higher than if it's done internally. We have small agencies, I think our smallest is 7 members, and they do all of the conformance to the standards internally, so they don't farm those costs out. The cost of doing business consistent with CALIA standards is frankly the cost an agency should be bearing anyway if it's meeting contemporary law enforcement standards. How often do you have to renew your agency? Agencies are accredited for a 3-year period, and then at the end of that 3 years they are reaccredited. And what occurs is during the subsequent reaccreditation, policies are reviewed, the compliance issues, so the assessors are ensuring that the agency is doing what its policies say, and those sorts of things are addressed during that assessment period, which runs about 3 to 5 days depending upon agency size. We just in the last year or so modified our process, and as a result of modifying the process, we returned about $1,000 to each one of our clients. Our costs are actually, I think, 7% lower than they were in 1996. Is this the same as state accreditation? CALIA does not compare itself to state programs for a variety of reasons. What CALIA assures is that its standards are developed by subject matter experts through a defensible process. And CALIA will stand behind its standards if challenged legally. CALIA also provides support for agencies who are challenged through a lawsuit on issues. Some other credentialing organizations will adopt our standards, but they do so without the background or capacity to make the assertion that we do, because we have firsthand involvement with the professionals and the subject matter experts that help us develop these standards. That's an important distinction, and it may dramatically impact the affected agency if they're ever challenged. CALIA also provides a professional staff and a review process that involves leaders from the profession. We build our process around the concept of integrity and ensure that the agencies accredited by CALIA earn the mark of excellence. As a result, we meet 3 times a year, and we have somewhere between 90 and 130 agencies that appear at each one of those conferences for either accreditation or reaccreditation. And about 10% leave accredited status because the issue of maintaining the standards they were, for a variety of reasons, not able to maintain. An interesting point about CALIA, even though we accredit less than 1,000 agencies of the 18,000 agencies nationally, about 1 out of 4 police officers work for an accredited agency. And what that tends to demonstrate, and that's something that CALEA has been sensitive to, is we've made a lot of good strides in the larger and medium-sized agencies, but the smaller agencies really where the rubber meets the road, because as you all know through your legacy discussions during the conferences you attended, 50% of all agencies are 25 or less. And so if CALEA is going to impact the profession and communities the way that we feel we need to, then we've got to appeal to those size agencies and convince them that this is a relevant process for them. Dave, he's been accredited. I think we share the same accreditation cycle, and he's been accredited as long as I have, and I know that he can speak to the importance as I can for addressing a variety of concerns, but certainly chief among them is litigation.
Thank you, panelists. Here, there was a question that was submitted through the question box here. It says, can you address the number of standards that have changed for smaller agencies?
Yes. Yeah, there was a two-tiered process that was developed last year. Presently, there are 463 standards for what's now known as advanced accreditation, and then accreditation is 177 standards. And what the commission did is it commissioned a study of those standards that are absolutely necessary for any size law enforcement agency that is conducting traditional police services. And so it developed 177 or identified 177 standards and created a separate accrediting process for any agency. The appeal, of course, is for smaller agencies, but any agency, any size agency, for a variety of reasons, can decide to seek accreditation as opposed to advanced accreditation. The advanced accreditation being the 463 standards.
Okay, thank you, Chief Detmar. And so I'll just ask the panelists: are there any closing remarks, Chief Kurz or Chief Detmar, that you'd like to make on this topic today?
I guess just other than to say that besides CALEA, I'm sure that speaking for Lou and certainly myself, if there's any other questions offline, my email address is I think it's there somewhere. If it's not, it's dcurz@ci.durham.nh.us, and I'd be happy to help in any way. I mean, this is the accreditation process is this is certainly the place where the idea of the wheel has been developed was first mentioned, because there are policies out there that you can get from IACP, from PACS, from other areas where you just really need to have these things in place. And like I said, not having them in place is certainly not only not responsible, it's going to get us into trouble. So I urge everyone to at least, if this creates an opportunity to relook at their policies and procedures, then this half hour has certainly been successful.
And I would just echo Dave's comments. The long and the short of it is what CALEA does is it creates the positioning for agencies where those issues that should be addressed are addressed, and as a result of using the standards, what robust leadership can do is keep people out of their business, because they can demonstrate that they've got the necessary policies and protocols in place to address the kind of issues that frequently confront all law enforcement agencies, but to particularly smaller and medium-sized agencies, because you don't address those several types of issues on a day-to-day basis. What CALEA ensures is that you have the processes in place so that on those occasions when they do occur, you're able to distinguish yourself in your community as an agency that is a leader in the area of public safety services.
Okay. Thank you, panelists. We hope it was helpful to better your understanding of accreditation. I am providing contact information on the final slide that you can use to contact Leading by Legacy staff. Should you have further questions or want additional assistance, please don't hesitate to contact us. And again, thank you for joining us.